Okay, hold on guys. A secret military base with nuclear waste hidden under the ice of Greenland. I didn't make that up. NASA just discovered it, and completely by accident. A crazy story about hidden nuclear missiles, melting ice, and a ticking time bomb.
You can't miss this. Make sure to stay until the end. Welcome, everyone.
Before the video starts, why not give me a late Christmas present and subscribe to the channel right now? I would be very happy about that. Thanks, guys. Yes, the designated US President Donald Trump just wrote on Truth Social that he is still interested in acquiring Greenland and making it part of the USA. Let me know in the comments what you think about the idea. I would be very interested. From a strategic point of view, Greenland would certainly be very valuable. However, I don't think Denmark would want to give it up. In any case, this suggestion appears in a completely new light after the discovery I'm telling you about today. In April 2024, a NASA research team made an unexpected discovery. The scientists had actually only wanted to test a new radar device to study the Greenland ice sheet.
But then something strange suddenly appeared in the data. Deep beneath the ice, the remains of an abandoned military base became visible. Camp Century, a city under the ice as it was called back then. But let's start from the beginning.
It is the 1950s in the middle of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union are massively rearming and seeking strategic advantages. So the Americans come up with a crazy idea. Why not build a secret military base under the Greenland ice sheet? The official version at the time was that the intention was to conduct scientific research there and test construction techniques for the Arctic.
Of course, there was actually a much bigger plan behind it.
The US military wanted to create a gigantic network of tunnels in the ice under the codename Project Iceworm. The plan was to build an incredible 4,000 kilometers of underground tunnels. And what was the point of all this? To hide up to 600 mobile nuclear missiles there that could have been used against the Soviets at any time.
A crazy. 1959 then saw the construction of Camp Century, about 200 kilometers from the coast of Greenland.
The base was built entirely under the ice and supplied with energy by a mobile nuclear reactor. During operation, between 85 and 200 soldiers lived there, a real small town in the ice, and the facilities were impressive. 21 tunnels with a total length of 3 kilometers, accommodations, workshops, even a chapel.
The ice provided a perfect natural camouflage. But the planners overlooked one crucial thing about the ice. For once, no nasty aliens. The planners didn't expect that the ice was constantly moving.
The tunnels began to deform and water seeped in. After only a few years, it became clear that the ambitious Project Iceworm was doomed to failure. In 1967, the US Army finally abandoned the base, and that's where the story gets really interesting. Because during the hasty retreat, the military left some things behind.
Thousands of tons of waste. Diesel, toxic chemicals, and even low-level radioactive cooling water from the reactor. The people in charge thought back then that the stuff would stay forever under the ice. Spoiler alert, they were wrong about that.
Chad Green, a NASA scientist involved in the new discovery, says, "We only found Camp Century by accident. We were actually testing a new radar device called URSA, which can look both down and to the side. We were completely surprised by the level of detail in the images."
In fact, the new radar data reveals individual tunnels and structures of the secret base. And this is despite the fact that they are buried under 36 meters of ice.
The scientists were able to compare the images with historical blueprints and found a perfect match. A super fascinating discovery, but also slightly disturbing because if parts of the ice sheet covering Camp Century begin to melt, then all the toxic remains would slowly thaw and could get into the groundwater or the sea. Climate researcher Jeff Colgan of Brown University warns the remains of Camp Century are like a ticking time bomb under the ice. We don't know exactly what's buried down there, but when the ice melts, we'll find out sooner than we'd like. The story of Camp Century is a stark reminder of how the sins of the past can catch up with us even decades later. A secret military base built to wage a nuclear war could now become a real environmental hazard. The political dimension is also particularly explosive. When the base was built in 1959, Greenland was part of Denmark, as it is today. The US had permission to build military bases there, but there was no mention of storing nuclear waste. It was only in 1995 that it became known that there was a nuclear reactor at Camp Century.
The new radar data could now help determine the exact extent of the remnants. The UAFSA system has proven to be extremely useful. NASA is now planning further flyovers to capture even more detailed images. A NASA spokesperson explained,
"This technology was actually developed to measure the thickness of ice sheets and thus be able to make better predictions about sea level rise. The fact that we can also use it to detect hidden military bases was an unexpected bonus."
The discovery also raises fundamental questions about what else is hidden beneath the ice.
What other military relics of the Cold War are waiting to be brought back to light? Greenland was of immense strategic importance during the Cold War because the island was located exactly between the United States and the Soviet Union. The shortest route for intercontinental ballistic missiles would have been across the Arctic. In addition to Camp Century, there were other American military bases, for example the Thule Air Base, which is still in operation today. But in the Cold War era, no idea seemed too crazy in the fight for military supremacy. Incidentally, the story of Camp Century has also been the inspiration for a few movies. In Ice Station Zebra, a 1968 film starring Rock Hudson, the plot revolves around a secret Arctic base, so the parallels are somewhat unmistakable.
And movies like The Thing from Another World play with the idea of hidden installations beneath the ice, and the concept of gross alien symbionts.
But back to reality and the pressing question of what will happen to the remains of Camp Century. Recovering the material would be extremely costly and expensive. Even the construction of the base back then cost the equivalent of several $100 million. Cleanup today would cost many times that amount. On the other hand, doing nothing could be even more expensive if the toxic waste seeps into the groundwater. The Greenlandic government is already demanding that the US pay for the cleanup. After all, it was American forces that buried the waste there. What particularly fascinates me about the whole story is that we humans often think we can outsmart nature, hiding a base under the ice, burying nuclear waste, and hoping it stays there forever. But nature always finds a way to thwart our plans, and in this case, it is the melting ice that brings everything to light. Camp Century is thus also a symbol of our short-term thinking. What seemed like a brilliant military idea at the time could now prove to be a fatal mistake. The radioactive and toxic legacies of the Cold War will thus keep us busy for a long time to come.
Of course, I will keep you updated on all developments in this matter. And if you want to be informed right away as soon as NASA makes new discoveries beneath the ice, you should subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell.
So if you still haven't had enough of topics related to science and space, you can find more exciting videos on the right. Every click helps the channel a lot. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, folks.